Hello and welcome to Knitting at Tiffany's. This is a special episode as I have a special guest with me today, and this is
Holli Yeoh.
Holli is an amazing designer, and I'm sure you've heard of her, and if you haven't, you need to go check her out. Her patterns are phenomenal, and we're going to talk a little bit with Holli today, and you can get to know her. So Holli, share with us where you're living, what you're doing right now, and your life a bit.
Okay, I live in Vancouver, Canada.
Very nice.
The rain city.
Yes, unfortunately. But it's still beautiful. You don't have the winters like we do.
Well, that's right. That's right. Even though it's rainy in the winter, it's just rain. It's not very often snowy.
That's good. That's good. Excellent. And do you live right in Vancouver? Or?
Right in Vancouver.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I've been there a few years ago. It was actually beautiful. I really think it's a beautiful place. So you're so lucky.
Yeah.
And you have a ferry that you can kind of cross right over to Seattle, is it?
No, it's just Seattle's quite close, except for the border lineup. So,
of course.
but it's maybe only like 3 hours away or something like
nice.
that. There is a ferry that goes to that area, but that would be from Vancouver Island.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure where it was from. Very, very nice. Excellent. Do you have kids?
I have one son, a teenager.
Oh, wow. That must be interesting. Does he knit?
No.
Does he support you?
Sort of.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Well,
it's different.
As good as a teenage boy.
It is. It's you know, they're not usually into knitting, and if they are, it's different. But the fact that you even have some support and he takes interest in you, it's great. Yeah, it is good. Excellent. And your husband must be over the moon with you.
He's great. He's fabulous. He enables me to be able to do this.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
that is excellent. Good for you. It's always good to have someone like that. So take us back to when you first started with knitting. You know, what got you knitting?
I've been knitting since I was 5, so
wow.
It's my mom who got me knitting. I remember I wanted to learn how to knit and crochet. And my mom did all of that, so she taught me how to crochet first, and then I really wanted to know how to knit.
Yeah.
And I was knitting a pink scarf, baby pink,
wow.
and I would carry it around the neighborhood knitting while I was playing. And then I'd drop a stitch or something or run into a problem, so I'd go running home to have my mom fix it, and then I'd go back out and knit some more. So because I was playing outside, the yarn got kind of dirty, or my hands were dirty, so you could see sort of grayer stitches.
Oh, you were starting the speckle fade without even knowing it.
Yeah. I don't recall ever actually finishing that project or anything about what happened to it, but
nice.
I do remember working on it.
And does your mom still knit to this day?
Yes, yeah, she's great. She knits a lot of samples for me.
Oh, awesome.
And
that's a big help.
Yeah.
That really does help. That way you could always move on to something and knowing that she'll be able to finish something for you.
I started by designing baby sweaters. And
that's my next question, so you might as well go into that.
and because they're small, they knit up quickly,
yes.
and they're kind of a fun project. And I was using self-patterning sock yarn.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Which is fun in and of itself.
Yeah.
And so Mom knit a lot. I think between the two of us, we've knit well over 100 of these.
Wow.
And so they're in a lot of shops as samples in the shops.
That's excellent. So you started with baby knitting, and then you've expanded into, I've seen women's, men's, and home.
Yeah.
Like home accessories, like pillows and things.
Yeah.
Wow. Most designers usually focus, I think, more specifically on one or two things, but you've done everything, which is excellent.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite for you between all those?
Well, I guess it's what I like to wear. So, I like cardigans the best, or sweaters at any rate. So that's my preferred thing. But of course, those are larger projects.
Yeah.
So having started with the kids' stuff, they were quick. I kind of had this formula in my mind of how I approach it, and it was hard to break away from that. But I wanted to, because I was becoming known as this kid,
baby knitter.
And I wanted, I want to be more than that.
Right.
So
and you're wearing a beautiful design, and this is from your new book, isn't it?
It's from Tempest. Yeah, it came out in 2014.
Oh wow! Oh, well, I still think it's new. Every book to me is always new.
Yeah.
And
when you first see it, it seems new.
Yeah, exactly. And if someone first buys it, it's new.
That's right. That's right.
So but it doesn't look like it's a 2014 piece. You make I've noticed with the way you design some of your sweaters, in my opinion, that you make them more classic, where you can wear them at any time. It's not something that's more of a specific fashion statement of this is what it is now, and you can't wear it in like 2 years, but you might wear it 10 years later. So
they're sort of contemporary classics, if you will, or timeless pieces.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I love that. That's excellent. And what made you start designing? Like, what was it that really got you in that bug?
Well, I've always made things and created things. When I was a little kid, I was designing my own doll clothes and that sort of thing, sewing mostly at that time. But I've got a fine arts degree. I went to art college, and I came out of that as a jeweler.
Oh, wow.
But through all that time, I was always knitting, and people said, well, why don't you design your own? And I'm like, oh no, there's so many great patterns out there. I don't need to do that. But
it's true, but there's always could be more.
But exactly. And then there are a lot of toxins in jewelry making, and I wanted to have a family, and I wasn't enjoying it as much anymore. So I had this idea, this sort of epiphany. I know what I'll do. I'll design knitwear.
Yeah.
When I decide to, start a family, and I had this idea, and like 2 or 3 years before I actually started doing it. And
that's amazing.
So got pregnant and started, thinking about it. And it was when I was pregnant, I was at a knitting retreat, and somebody came rushing over to show me this sock she was knitting, and it was self-patterning sock yarn, and I'd never heard of it. And she was like, look what the yarn does. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's nice, but I don't do fair isle. I don't do stranded,
Yeah.
And I don't do socks. And she's going, no, you don't get it. The yarn is coming out this way. That all that color work it's just stocking stitch. And I thought, that's amazing, but I'm not really interested in knitting socks. So I was thinking, well, the sleeve on a baby sweater is like the circumference of a sock.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that's exactly where that started. And because I was pregnant, of course, it was baby on the brain.
Obviously, yeah.
And then as my son grew older, so my first patterns only went up to a size 2. Or for a 2-year-old, I mean.
Yeah.
And then as he grew older, I incorporated more sizes, although I capped it because I kind of thought, well, how many people would be willing to knit a fingering weight sweater for an older child? And I also...
Now these days they do.
Well, they do. But kids beyond a certain age really aren't interested in hand knit.
That's true.
So my patterns that are specifically for older kids are not as popular, I've noticed.
Yeah, more the young, and it's funny because now even adults have fingering weight sweaters, and I look at it going, oh my god, that would take me probably a year to knit. And other people can, would knit them fast, but I'm a slow knitter, so I understand that. And with my girlfriend having kids, and she knits for her daughter, her daughter's now 7, and she's knitting more of the DK worsted kind of weights, just so it's quicker knits, and I see that they're getting the bulkier trends, so that, and again, she's not into as much as the clothes as she used to be when she was younger. So I see it, and probably as she gets older, she might change. You never know. But it's a girl, so it's a little different too.
Exactly.
Than boys, but I understand that. Yeah, you don't see kids in knitwear after a certain age. I guess. It's fun when you get to dress your children to a certain age, and that's where you could put them into it. So
exactly.
Excellent. And what do you love most about designing?
The whole package. It feels so rewarding to, have this idea and knit it, and it looks like the idea.
Yeah.
And at points as I'm working on it, I think, oh, I'm not sure if this is, it'll be fine, but it might not be what I intended. And then, try it on and say, oh, that's it. That's exactly what I meant.
And that must be, as you said, so rewarding, and what an accomplishment to have, when you can put something in your head and then you actually put it on paper, then you actually create it and you get to see the final piece, and then if you're wearing it or something, it's phenomenal. That's amazing. And let's see, so is there, I know there's so many indie dyers out there and yarns out there. Do you have favorites that you like to work with? I know that's probably a tough question because they're probably, people ask me if I have a favorite. I don't have a favorite yarn, but I have favorite colors, so it's different. But do you have favorite yarns you like to design with more than others?
I do, and that's probably just more due to familiarity than anything else. I'd love to work in a yarn shop and actually see everything knit up and see people's projects as they make them, but I don't. So so I'm just familiar with what I've been working with. So love Sweet Georgia yarns. Colors are amazing. The bases are really nice. She's lovely to work with. If I'm working on a project that's got more than one color, I usually actually consult with her and say, what do you think? You know,
Oh, wow. Yeah, Felicia's got great color sense.
Yeah, and that's why I loved working on it. So my book was a collaboration with Felicia, and that was just an amazing experience to work together with her.
And the colors, you got to go check out that book. And the colors you use in there, the purples, like the brightness, and I love her colors are so saturated, and they're so, like, they just show such great tones and colors, and when you want a purple, you get the different purples, and you can pick all those different shades.
Yeah,
so it's so nice to see, and I could see that in your book and the way you blend things together. There's a couple favorite patterns I have in that book that I like, and I don't even know if I pronounced them right, so I don't know. It's the hat and the fingerless mitt set. Procella, that's how it is. I wasn't sure if it's Procella.
yeah, it's a Latin word, and I had to look up the pronunciation. I was mispronouncing it as well. And
and does it? So what does it mean?
It means wave or storm, or so. I was working with a stitch pattern that sort of repeats throughout a number of the designs, but I varied it, and it kind of looked like waves to me. So I started playing with the word wave and found procella as a Latin word that means that, and then I translated that back to English, and that's where I got tempest.
Oh, interesting.
So
wow.
Yeah, it was kind of this sort of roundabout.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. And so, is there a favorite color that I know what you're wearing right now? So
I like purple and teal.
That's excellent. And it suits you well because it makes your eyes really nice too, and it pops them out. But and then I was going to say, besides your Tempest book, you have other books out too, don't you?
I'm in a lot of books, but they're not my books.
They're collaborations?
Yeah, or third-party publishers.
Okay.
So I submit a lot of designs for, magazines and books will put up calls for submissions.
And is there, do you prefer doing your own, or do you like to work with other people? And I know you also have your patterns on Ravelry, but I asked that question only because it's different when you have your book just to you and it's yours, and then when you're sharing.
I find it easier to work with a deadline, and if it's somebody else's deadline, because if it's my own deadline, I won't keep it.
We're always going to push it.
Yeah. And I've been enjoying the challenge of submitting designs because usually there are some parameters. So it's, the world isn't my oyster. It's easier, but it's easier to focus in on, and some calls, no, I don't even submit because nothing about it sort of speaks to me.
And that was what I was going to ask you. Is it, do you get to pick and choose? So like, do you turn people down because it's something that you don't feel that might be what you're wanting to do?
I see what you're saying. Well,
is it?
Well, more often I'm, like they put out a call.
Okay.
And anybody can submit designs.
So it's whatever you want then that you can submit to them.
And then I submit, and then they may choose something. And when I submit, I don't submit one design. I submit anywhere between like 4 and 14 designs.
Wow. That's a lot
and
of
they
work.
may choose 1 or 3 or none,
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of work that you put into it. You keep really busy. I don't know how you do it. And then plus you're teaching too.
Yes.
So you travel a lot for your teaching? Is it mostly within the U.S. or do you have to travel through Europe or?
I've so far only taught in Canada actually.
Oh, only Canada, not the U.S. yet?
No.
What are they waiting for, people?
Yeah.
Call up Holly, she's available. And I see you teach a lot of different courses when you're teaching.
Yeah.
Is there one that's your favorite?
I think it's my finishing class, and it is the most popular as well. And I just, I believe in seams in sweaters, and I know a lot of people don't, but I see a lot of knitters not confident in their ability to finish their projects nicely, so I like to be able to help them with that, and I give way more information than...
That's good. I mean, you know what, it's... I hate sewing things up, I'll admit that, and Erin is phenomenal and she does that for me. She helps me out, and I can do it. It's not like I can't, I just don't like it. To me, when I'm done knitting, my project's complete.
Well, and I am a lot like that, but I didn't go the seamless route. Because I think seams are valuable. They add a structure and
I agree
to the project.
Especially when you're shaping.
Yeah.
And most people need shaping. They need bust, waist, hip shaping these days, and every different measurement's different. So I really do think that when you get to seam something up, it's because you're doing a front and back piece, and you're putting something into it that's going to fit you to a T.
Yeah.
And if you're going to put the time and effort into making a sweater for yourself, make it fit you perfectly.
Yeah, and you don't want it to stretch stretch out of shape. You know, you need structure in up here because the whole weight of the sweater is hanging from up here, right? So if there are no seams up here, it's just going to hold
true. So let me ask you, because I have droopy shoulders, is what I'm told. So I'm told that raglan sleeves are not good because it pulls from the neck down, and I should wear more of a set-in sleeve. And I notice a lot of designers rarely do a set-in sleeve. It's more of the raglans. Is it because it's more of knit in one and they just like that combination than having to do a set-in sleeve? Or is there more of a design element with having to do a set-in sleeve? Is that?
I'm not sure why designers are choosing that. I can speculate. Certainly,
well, for yourself, let's say, not for everyone in general.
Like a sleeve cap for a set-in sleeve is it's not a simple calculation. And there is a sort of a basic simple formula for a raglan, but it's not going to fit well. It won't fit most people well.
Yeah.
Is how I feel about that when I talk with tech editors about it. The best fitting garment will have set-in sleeves, and they're not as easy to calculate and then grade for all the sizes. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at your sweater, because your sweater is a set-in sleeve. Yeah. And I could see how it sits you, and you have the nice square shoulders. So it's not like you have to have it, but I do see a difference even when you wear it. There's a difference.
Yeah,
to it. And because I don't see a pull within your sweater, it just sits nicely, and then your sleeve hangs nicely.
Yeah.
So I noticed the difference.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I know I'm a math person. I can do the math. And I understand things when you explain it to me. I don't alter a pattern because I don't know how to.
Right.
But I've learned to take a pattern and say, okay, these are my measurements for my shoulders, my arms, and I'll just take that pattern because I like the pieces, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'll use the specific size for that body dimension.
Right.
So sometimes it doesn't make sense when I go through my bust to waist to hips, because that's where I go
Yeah.
big, small, big.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I need a, I don't even know, 40, let's say 40-inch hips or something. Well, that's like a large or extra large on some patterns, but my waist is like a medium. So how do you go from that to that? Some patterns don't describe that to you to get that difference.
Well, that's right. And at least in knitting, most of us don't have form-fitted waists in our sweaters.
I know.
So
I'm the odd one that likes them.
Okay. Oh, but you like them.
I like them. It's me. Yeah. But it's true. Most of them, they have the shaping. They'll have the shaping.
There'll be some shaping.
The darts
but I usually have, I usually make my shaping about 3 inches less than the bust.
Perfect.
And I don't really worry about how small or large the waist is, as long as the person,
right,
or
if it's their silhouette.
Yeah.
And
you still get the effect of a waist.
Right. And I think and that's flattering, and some people need that, and I get that, and other people need that more boxier sweater, depending what it is. But I think just shaping around busts in general, I think every sweater. It gives a better fit to people when they're wearing it. I think just a sweater looks better on someone when you have it. And some of the
but also you need to fit the shoulders.
Yes,
and it's really the shoulders are kind of a more important measurement.
And it's funny, a lot of people I know that classes I've taken, it's always, let's start with measurements, because people think you are one size, and then you measure, you're like, oh, I didn't know I was this, oh, I didn't know I was this, and then it's like people think, oh, I'm like 50 inches across here, and I'm literally like, 38. I'm like, that's a bit different.
It is, I think people tend to knit their sweaters too large.
Yes, I agree.
And I think a sweater can look really nice with negative ease in the bust. It doesn't mean it's going to be negative ease everywhere else.
That's right.
I mean, think about a t-shirt, right?
That's right.
You lay it on the bed and it's this skinny little thing, but it stretches to fit you. And in a sweater, if it's stretching a little bit over the bust, as long as it's not a cardigan where the buttons are going like that.
Yeah.
But you can do even just zero ease or just shy of zero ease.
And it will have a nice fit.
Yeah. And then everywhere else, it's not going to be skin tight through the waist.
Right, exactly. It will still have that nice hang and that fit.
Yeah.
And you'll still be able to move around in it, and it won't be like it's too small for you.
Yeah.
And I bet you're a believer in swatching. And you know what? I never. I made a couple sweaters in my life, and the first couple ones I never swatched for, but they were more boxier. And then I did an Amy Herzog sweater, and she was all about swatching, so I swatched. And I have to say, and hers is also a piece sweater like you would be. You have to say, swatching does save you. It really does. It makes a huge difference to see how that material or that yarn you're going to use will wash, dry, and fit afterwards, and you'll get your true.
And if you like the hand of the fabric,
right?
especially because most of us are substituting yarn.
That's true. Oh, yeah, all
And,
the time
you know,
probably.
if it's like stiff as a board, yeah, you got gauge, but it's really stiff.
Yeah.
Well, and in the photograph, there's drape in the thing.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not going to be happy with your
Right.
results. You're just not.
And sometimes if you're knitting a swatch, you know, let's say the pattern calls for a 4mm needle. We're Canadian, we use millimeters, right? A 4mm needle, I don't know what the conversion is, but
USX.
there you go. Thank you. One day I'll learn those. You tend to, you know, get this beautiful material and then you wash it and all of a sudden it's like, holy, like it has more air to it kind of, you know, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want that, you know, then it might be a little bit too see-through. So it's funny, like you think, oh, it's going to be beautiful,
Yeah.
but you know, you get something different after you wash
Yeah.
it. And
Or it might go the other way. You might knit it and go, that's not so great, and then you wash it and the yarn blooms and it kind of fills up the holes.
that's right.
And it sort of puffs up and becomes lush. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and see, I guess that's where you were saying when you knit with Sweet Georgia, you know what it's going to do for you.
Yeah.
And you know how you're going to react so that you know what you're going to get kind of for a final product.
Yeah, yeah. But I still swatch.
For sure. Yeah. You know, I have to say, if you're going to make sweaters and put the time into it, do swatch. It really
Yeah,
does make a
yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to put all those hours into knitting something, assemble it, try it on, and it's, you know, 3 inches larger than you had intended or 3 inches smaller. And you know, just a stitch or two off a gauge can make that big of a difference.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Yeah, so I think that was all the questions I really had for you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so
my
much.
pleasure. My
We're
pleasure.
today at the Toronto Knitters Frolic, and Holly's come in from Vancouver here, so it's been a real treat to have her here, and phenomenal to see her again. I met her a few months ago back at the Knit for Fun retreat in Edmonton, and that was a lot of fun.
That was a great
It was
retreat.
a great retreat. That was my first time in doing an Ann Bud retreat and getting to meet some wonderful designers. And I was checking Holly in and didn't even realize it was her until I kind of looked up and went, oh, I love your cowl. And then I was like, wait, I know that cowl. And I put the face to the name to the cowl and I was like, I know where I know you from. You know, I was just kind of doing a line of checking in, so I wasn't kind of really paying attention. And then the odd person would pop in front of me, and
Yeah.
that's how I knew it was you. But yeah, and you were taking classes. And
Yeah, I was there taking classes. I wasn't teaching.
Yeah, so that must have been fun for you to actually do that for a change.
Yeah.
And so do you have another big event coming up for yourself that you're doing next?
Yeah, I'm doing Yarn Okanagan next month. Sorry, in June 16th, I think it is, in Kelowna. And
Oh,
it's
very nice.
the first year of their Fiber Festival.
Oh,
Yarn
wow.
Okanagan, it's called.
That's excellent. So if you're in the BC area, yes. So if you're in Vancouver, BC, go check it out. If you're near there, hop on a plane.
Yeah, I mean, it's a destination.
Yeah.
You know, Kelowna, the Okanagan's a lovely place to visit.
I hear.
So,
That's excellent.
they
Well, I
should-
wish you all the best with
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Tiffany.
And thank you all for watching. We hope to see you soon. Bye.
bye-bye.